Okay, I got my copies, a whole boatload of them. It should last me for a while. Busy day. So on the way down, I was talking about the Adults Day here in Japan, and on the way, I said at the end, hey, maybe we'll talk about surfer chicks. Okay, why not? What the heck? Let's talk about surfer chicks. Subject fond to my heart. I was a surfer when I grew up in California, and started body surfing. My dad taught me to body surf when I was a little boy, and I've had a close affinity to the ocean all my life, except when I came to Japan. I never go there anymore. Sad. But anyway, I digress. Surfing is a masculine affair in California. Surfers are mostly males, young adults, young boys going into men. It's pretty rare to see a female out there in the lineup, and when you do, it's a pretty special event. And when I say it's a masculine affair, it depends on where you go, but it's rather macho in terms of, especially if you're serious about it and you want to surf on the breaks where the best waves are. There's not a lot of token surfers. People don't tend to get into it for the sake of the image so much. They tend to either be into it and they really want to surf, or they try it for a while and they give up, or whatnot, or they stay and it's a lifelong thing. So when I was surfing, I grew up in Los Angeles area. I really enjoyed the surfing part, so I wanted the waves. And some of my favorite places were Huntington Beach Pier, the Trestles down south, and I used to surf at Rincon. And all of these places are really popular, good breaks. That means competition. That means you're going to have a lot of other guys out there in the lineup, and a lot of aggression going on. And I wasn't necessarily an aggressive guy. I would hang out there and try to get the best ways I can. But seeing the fist fights in the water was more common than I like to think. People did fight, getting your tires slashed because you weren't a local in a particular zone. That wasn't that common. Harsh words and aggression. Just a really surfing in those type of zones is a real testosterone laden event, and it was also a lot of fun because. Man, surfing's great. Okay, but anyway, so it was even more so when I went to college up in Humboldt State University, up by the California-Oregon border, and I graduated from the highly competitive mid-sized waves of California to the giant waves, the cold, isolated, lonely waters of Northern California, where I was actually the caretaker of a beach. I had my own stinking beach with beautiful waves on it, and I wake up every morning and check those waves out. Often had the waves all to myself. I was the surf report. People would call me from the university town of Arcata and ask me how the waves, and I would give them a report. And I was always dreaming for people to come out because it's scary paddling out into those big, massive, head-high, double overhead waves when you're the only guy out there in those dark black waters with great whites swimming around and currents dragging things off into the giant redwood trees floating about and under the water. Spooky stuff. Anyway, I'm being very long-winded, and we haven't talked about surfer chicks yet. So anyway, that's the environment that I grew up as a surfer. Now, when I first came to Japan all those years ago, I brought my surfboard with me, and the first time I went out into the lineup, it was a crowded place somewhere down in Osaka. I can't even remember where it was. The waves were really bad, but I expected aggression. That many people in the lineup. I expected a lot of that old feeling that I knew in Southern California. The reality was nothing like that at all. It was very friendly, happy, playful, joyous, fun experience. The dudes that were out there surfing were really nice guys. There was the same tendency that we all have, that we have in a precedence. That's the best way to call it. In surfing world, when you get on into a crowded lineup, you have a kind of a precedence that takes place. The guy furthest out towards the point break, usually gets the first dibs on the ride, and he's usually the one that got there first. And so as he takes it off on a wave, then the next guy can take his position, and so on. Unless you get really aggressive guys that come out and they just paddle right to the lead point, leaving everybody else behind. That's where fights happen. I saw none of that stuff in Japan. Very, very polite. Oh, here, you go ahead and, in Japanese, of course, after you, go ahead. Oh, no, it's no problem. Sometimes we'd be so polite, the wave would pass by and nobody would catch it. So that was all a big surprise to me. Then what came as the biggest surprise, though, was sitting there in the lineup, and all suddenly I hear feminine girlish giggling. I can't do a feminine girlish giggle to save my life. But anyway, I turn around and there is the cutest little thing paddling out on her surfboard. And she's not alone. She's got a couple friends with her. And they're paddling out. And I start looking around and I'm noticing that bloke isn't a bloke at all. He's a girl. And one girl after another. There were a large proportion, clearly the majority were males, but there were a large proportion of girls out there. And I'm calling them girls because that's what I thought of them at the time. They were dainty little surfer girls out there. And some of them were women, of course. So excuse my sexist language. Anyway, there they are out in the lineup, paddling out amongst the guys. I was delighted to see this. Of course, it was our fantasy when I was... Have you can look at our laundry. I'll have to take that in before it gets too dark. It was our fantasy in Southern California. We'd sit out there in the lineup, and all of us would talk about... the lineup is basically when you're sitting out there waiting for the waves to come between sets. You're all lined up, and the waves come, and they tend to break in a certain spot, so you're all together. And we would talk and chat and stuff, and one of the things we dreamed about was meeting a surfer chick, and it was just such a rare thing to find. But out there here in Japan, they were everywhere in the lineup, talking with the men, having fun, looking great in those tight-fitting wetsuits. Oh my gosh. And then we got back on the beach, and there they are in groups. I remember I was talking, if you saw a video I did earlier about something about motorcycle culture, I talked about how Japanese like to do things in groups, and the same holds true for surfing. They would have their little clubs, and they would have something like the, what was it, I can't remember, the Avalon, Frankie Avalon, was that it? The beach bimbo parties in the 50s. I'm not saying it at all right, but they would have the group of friends and they would have a party on the beach. It's just like that. It's still like that here in Japan. And they would have their little club, and we'd go up, and the women would be there, and the men would be there, and they'd break out the food, and then I would get invited to join, and invariably, and they would, the women would be handing us rice balls, and there would be beer, and we would have fun, and I learned over time that there's this whole subculture of surfing, and it's not about the waves, it's not about the water, it's about the people, it's about being a member of a club, a community, what they call in Japan a circle, and you being a part of your group. And these people would travel around in bands, in what I mean in bands, in groups of cars, and go from one break to the next. I used to hitchhike at that time in Japan, and I used to hitchhike with my surfboard. What a sight that must have been. I'd be on my skateboard, skating along the road in the countryside in Japan, trying to get to the beach with my surfboard, and thumb out, and invariably I was heading to a break such as at Omaezaki here in Shizuoka area. I lived up in this area for a while, and I would get picked up by a van full of surfers who would take me with them to their break, share with me their food, take me, show me around, just show me the greatest time, and drive me back. I was living in a dormitory in Minabewa, a place called Minabewa at that time, and just one experience after. Invariably, if I headed out on the skateboard with the surfboard, I got picked up by surfers, spent a day with them, and there were always a high proportion of women amongst the men. And they were the most delightful, tanned, healthy, charming, pretty, and they knew how to wax their boards really nice. Yeah, such memories. So if you come to Japan and you have an interest in surfing, even if you don't know how to surf, you want to meet some nice Japanese people, take up surfing. It's an expensive hobby here, but once you get into your little circle, and you'll easily find one. If you find yourself a surf store, and do your best to become friends with the owner there, and it will be easy to become friends. Believe me, it's really, really, these people are nice, and you will find yourself amongst the group. You can do that in any subculture here in Japan. You can become a part of a motorcycle group, a bicycle group, a running group, a diving group. Just about any group any hobby that you want to will be a link in to the culture, and it's a great way to become integrated into the life in Japan. So there you go, beautiful, cute, sexy, daring surfer chicks in Japan. A surprise to me and a delight in every capacity. Okay, I gotta get the laundry. You guys have a great day.